all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
And welcome into the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I am your host, John Nabors, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Happy Thursday to everybody out there. One day closer to the weekend and one day closer to the end of June. I guess summer solstice was the other day. It's kind of nice. Like, that's the thing I do like about summer is how long it stays daylight outside. But the heat at least is taking a little bit off of it. But should be a great weekend and getting closer to the midway point. And then once July hits, it starts really transitioning into football season with SEC Media Days and everything. So we'll get to that point at some point in time here, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. But we're going to talk a few things today and do have some discussions about college football, especially with this EA Sports video game that everyone seems to be so up in arms about. And we're going to also have some other news and some updates from this Texas A&M situation that still continues to get really fascinating from the baseball side of things, and Jim Schlossangle jumping over to Texas Longhorns. But I wanted to start the show today and talking about basketball a little bit because yesterday the NBA draft in the first round took place, which I'll be honest, I don't watch the NBA draft. I don't watch the NFL draft. And if you do, that's fine. If it's my team that I'm really interested in or I'm wanting to know more about or whatever, I just follow on social media and just find out that. I don't need a bunch of people yelling and debating about how great a player is and how great a player is going to be and all of those things. It's just not my cup of tea. It's just not for me. So, but anyways, if that's for you, then that's great. Have at it. But, yesterday you had a few players in the NBA draft that were selected from the University of Kentucky. Now, this is not a surprise. And I know we're more about Arkansas, and we're going to talk about Arkansas, but this has to do with Coach Calipari. Has to do with Coach Calipari because he has continued to show time and time again that he is just the dude when it comes to bringing in guys and getting them to the next level. Reed Sheppard was drafted 3rd overall. He was the first American college player to play. The top 2 picks were from France. And then you had Rob Dillingham from Kentucky, drafted at number 8 overall. And people were like, all right, cool, that's great. Hey, Kentucky got a few draft picks and looked really good. That's great. Another banner day and another banner draft for John Calipari. Well, it's funny because when those guys were drafted and Cal's there and he put out some tweets, a guy named Skip Bayless, I don't know if you've heard of him, and he's a guy that's been around a long time and has a lot of hot takes, but he tweeted this out yesterday. He says, quote, "I'll say it again. How did Coach Cal's Kentucky flame out in the SEC and NCAA tournament with Reed Sheppard and soon to be drafted Rob Dillingham in its backcourt? Arkansas, beware." That's his tweet. So first off, let me just say that tweet right there, I don't think anything else could make me feel more confident that John Calipari is going to be great at Arkansas, because Skip Bayless is usually wrong about almost everything. And so him tweeting that, all right, now I feel really good about it if he's talking about how Arkansas needs to beware. But besides Skip Bayless saying it, he's not the only one that has felt this way, or at least has said something like this about John Calipari and his past few years in the NCAA tournament or SEC tournament or whatever it may be. So I looked at it. He had 2 first-round picks taken this year, 2 top 10 picks taken this year. Last year, he had another top 10 pick taken in Cason Wallace, who went to the Dallas Mavericks. The year before that, he had the number 7 overall pick in Shaden Sharp, and also the 29th overall pick in Ty Washington. The year before that, he had Isaiah Jackson, drafted 22 overall. And then the year before that, had Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickley drafted into the NBA draft. Those are just the first rounders, too. Nick Richards was also drafted early in the second round in 2020. You had Brandon Boston drafted 20th overall in the second round. And then you had Chris Livingston drafted in the second round at the 58th overall pick, I should say, in 2023. And the draft, again, it's weird that it goes for two. I think it was dumb. It's 2 rounds and you have it 2 different days. I don't think anyone's going to care as much tonight, but either way, you're going to have probably another player from Kentucky or possibly another player taken from Kentucky in that span. So each and every year, Cal has had a first-round pick. And in some cases, it's been a top 10 pick. So when people come out about that and Skip Bayless being one of them, and looking at it in that exact span and how Kentucky has not had the same success, or at least has not had it equating to success in the postseason, even though they've had high-level talent, at least one high-level talent player, or in every single year having 2 NBA draft picks on their team. How have they flamed out? Why have they flamed out? Should Arkansas actually beware, like Skip Bayless says? Well, here's the thing. I believe it is 100% okay to be critical of the lack of success that John Calipari has had as a head coach since the pandemic in postseason play. If you want me to sit here and say why it's all just sunshine and rainbows, that Cal and his team's not making it to the second weekend before COVID, like that, I mean, they've won 2 NCAA tournament games since then, but to not make it into the Sweet 16 during that stretch, I think it's warranted to have some sort of criticism about it. I mean, I think so. I mean, even in 2020 and 2021, they didn't even make the NCAA tournament. They went 9-16, but they went 8-9 in SEC play, which was interesting. But still, in that stretch, they actually just won 1 NCAA tournament game. But having talent, NBA talent, guys that are getting drafted in the NBA and sometimes top 10 picks, how does that happen? How does that happen? And should John Calipari be legitimately criticized for that? Well, as I've said before, getting to the NCAA tournament is tough, but winning games in the NCAA tournament is even tougher. And it would be one thing if John Calipari had never won in the NCAA tournament, but we know that just ain't the case because his career speaks for itself. Everywhere he's been in college as a head coach, he's done really well. He's 57-22. 57-22 in the NCAA tournament as a head coach. Of course, he won the national championship. He's been to the Final Four 6 different times. He's won the SEC tournament 6 different times. He's won the SEC regular season 6 different times. And that's just during his time at Kentucky. He has a lot of awards to go along with it and everything. But my point to that is that all those years that he was at Kentucky, he still had similar talent. I mean, the list continues to go on, and in some cases, he had even more talent than what he's had previously. Like, for instance, in 2019, that year was a year that Cal actually went to the Elite Eight. That was the furthest he went since that point. But that year, he had 3 first-round picks. The year before that, he had 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. The year before that, he had 3 top 15 picks. In 2017, he had 3 top 10 picks, top 15 picks. That was the year they went to the Elite Eight. And then the year they went to the Final Four. The last time they went to the Final Four was in 2015. 2014, 2015 was the last time they went to the Final Four. You want to know who they had? They just had simply 4 players in the top 15 taken, and then 2 players in the second round taken. They had 5 players drafted. Karl Anthony Towns was number 1 overall. He was pretty good. Willie Cauley-Stein was pretty good. Trey Lyles, pretty good. Devin Booker, last time I checked, he was pretty good. Andrew Harrison and Dakari Johnson. That was all on one team. Year before that, when they went to the national championship game, they had Julius Randle and James Young drafted. Not too shabby, I'd say. But what about the year they won the national championship? How did that match up? What did that look like? Well, you had Anthony Davis taken number 1 overall. You had Michael Kidd-Gilchrist taken number 2 overall. You had Terrence Jones, number 18 overall. You had Marcus Teague, number 29 overall. You had Deron Lamb, number 42 overall. You had Darius Miller, number 46 overall. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe I'm just oversimplifying it. My point is that the years that Kentucky was at its best were the years that they had a lot more than just one first-round pick. You know, it's almost like they had a really good team. You know, like multiple good players. You know, could be something to that. I mean, it's incredible when you go and see some of the guys he put forth. I mean, I completely forgot until I looked it up that Cal had 5 first-round picks in his first year at Kentucky. He had John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Patterson, Eric Bledsoe, and Daniel Orton. And the next year he had 2. I mean, it's just the list is so incredible of about the amount of players he's put in. But the years that they weren't as good or they didn't go as far as the years that they just didn't have as many. So but that is my point about, oh, beware Arkansas. You know, how did he have this player and this player? And, you know, these guys were 2 top 10 picks, but yet they lost in the first round of the tournament. Well, one, the NCAA tournament's pretty crazy. But also, I'd like to know who else has probably had a lot of good players, or at least a couple of good players, maybe some draft picks that lost early in the NCAA tournament. It does happen. It happens more than you realize. But I think that the correlation that people have to realize is that the best years that Cal had were the years that he had the most NBA picks. In the past few years, he hasn't. So is that on him? Is it on the players? Is it on the recruiting? I think all to blame. I think it goes round and round. But it goes back to the point that I kind of made yesterday. I'd rather have the best talent. Like you have 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming to Arkansas this year, right? 3 McDonald's All-Americans. Potentially could have 3 one-and-done players. You have John L. Davis, who is just a beast. I mean, I still can't believe he didn't go pro. He stayed 1 more year, and I think if he has a year like everyone's expecting him to at Arkansas, he'll be a first-round pick. I believe he's capable of that. Then you have a few other players that, even like a Trevin Brazil who's coming back, he's got the upside to be an NBA draft pick. Not saying for sure he will, but he's got the upside of it. And think about Jonas Adu. You know, could he continue to develop and continue to get better as he made the huge jump from 1 year to the next to Tennessee? He's just say he can't do it again. I didn't even mention the players from Kentucky that are coming to Arkansas last year. Like a guy like DJ Wagner, who's the number 1 player out of high school. Don't you think he might be able to do something? Don't you think he could be really great? So the point is that you can be critical. You can have those criticisms, but the fact that it's Skip Bayless saying it, in fact, I'm talking about it, it's what makes it kind of fun. So we'll talk about more here in just a second, but folks, I got to tell you about my friends over at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. You can't get anything better than it. If you're a Razorback fan, you want to have the Razorback apparel, you want to have the polo shirts, and they got a brand new in-stock, nice stuff. We're talking about Peter Millar. You're talking about Johnny O. You're talking about Nike Golf, Columbia. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous when you walk in there because you'll be like, oh, man, that's a nice looking shirt. Is this some sort of weird brand? No, it's actually a high-end brand. Like, I didn't even know that they made Razorback shirts. I got Southern Tide stuff. Yes, they have Razorback shirts, Razorback apparel all across the board. It's almost overwhelming. It's almost overwhelming how many items that they have. And when you walk in there, you better be careful because you'll walk out with the whole store. It's got that many great stuff. So check them out with their location right there at 3417 North College Avenue in Fayetteville. But if you're unable to get there, that's okay, because if you go to nattystatesports.com/alumni hall, that's nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. If you go to that link, you'll be able to see their entire catalog, and you'll have the opportunity to have any of the apparel that you want shipped to your house. So if you live here in the United States, it's hard to get to Alumni Hall. It's hard to get to Fayetteville when you're living all across the country. Well, here's your chance to be able to take advantage of it. Just go to nattystatesports.com/alumni hall. Go there, check it out for yourself, go through the catalog, get it delivered to you in time for football season. It's Alumni Hall, Arkansas Razorbacks' ultimate shopping destination.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
Okay, so moving on with the John Nabors Show here live from Natty State Sports Studios. This is something that I was kind of wondering how I was going to talk about it or how I was going to bring it up and everything. But, usually my routines in the morning whenever I wake up is I try to wake up early enough and go to the gym. Doesn't always happen that way, but I try to do that. But whenever my alarm goes off, I'm sure just like many of you, you kind of get on your phone and check emails, check text, check whatever it is to see if you missed anything or see if you got anything and all that. And whenever I wake up, if I see notifications, I'm kind of like OCD about it, where I don't like seeing numbers next to my apps. I know I'm weird, but I like kind of just clearing them. And one of the things that I have on there is an app called Time Hop. And what that is it's just an app that on this day, years and years and years ago, is what you've posted about. A lot of it can be very cringy, especially going back when I was on Facebook back in my high school days. Yikes. But I always check that just to see, what happens and, how things have changed, maybe some funny sports takes or funny sports opinions I had. And everything. But the thing I woke up to this morning was seeing that a year ago today, Ryan Mallett, former Razorback quarterback, passed away. And it's amazing that it's been a year. It's crazy that it's been a year. And so as soon as I saw about that post, I remember where I was, and it kind of just went through that day once again. And I remember I just got done doing my radio show down at 103.7 The Buzz in Little Rock. I just got done with the show, and I was coming home. So it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock. I was coming home, and I was about to record my Locked On Razorbacks podcast, because that was kind of my routine, is after I get done with that, maybe eat some dinner and whatever, and then get ready to record that. And as soon as I got home is when I got a text from somebody that said, hey, I want you to know that Ryan passed away. I don't know any details, but he's gone. And I remember just, just wanting, hoping that they were just wrong. Hoping that they were, thinking about somebody else or anything, because I didn't see anything reported on Twitter or anything like that. And then it kind of started to come out and it blew up and everything. And it happened while he was at the beach, down there in the Destin area. And so, no reason to go into details on how it happened, but it did happen. And it was such a sad, sad thing, man. And it's still sad to this day. And I remember how emotional it made me and so many others, but thinking about last year, how rough it was, where, Arkansas had a few former great players just pass away. Chris Smith passed away, Alex Collins, another one that passed away. And when Ryan passed away, I guess it maybe hit home a little bit more for me, because me and Ryan, they're the same age. And we went to the U of A together. I had met him at the U of A, and we did some stuff when post his career at Arkansas, and even into the NFL. And then when he got done in the NFL and came back to Arkansas, was trying to find a way, ended up being a high school coach and still stayed connected and still did some stuff together and everything. So it was just one of those things that was just really tough, man. It was really tough to wrap your head around. And I look back also on that day to where anytime you have someone that meant so much to you or meant so much to the sports team that you love and rooted for and appreciated, it's always going to be a big deal within your circle, like within the state of Arkansas. But to see the amount of people, like very highly regarded, well-known people across the NFL spaces, mention Ryan Mallett and offering their condolences was almost unreal. You had Tom Brady, which I know he played alongside Tom Brady for a few years at the Patriots, but having Tom Brady talk about it, having guys that he didn't even play with in the NFL mentioning it. And it just really showcased the type of personality that he had and the type of respect that he had from so many players, not only currently in the NFL, but former NFL players and everything. Like it was just heartbreaking. And I remember when I did that podcast a year ago, I remember when I was trying to start it, I couldn't even make it through the intro. Like, you never really know what's going to hit you emotionally. And, everybody wants to pay tribute in their own way. And that was the thing where it's like, I didn't know how to, you don't know how to like word it in a social media post. You don't know maybe what to type. You're always afraid of if it comes across the wrong way or whatever. So that's why it's like I always try to talk because that's what I do, And I remember when I tried to do that podcast and trying to pay tribute to Ryan, or 1-5, as I like to call him, I just couldn't do it, man. It took me so long to get through it. But one of the things that I felt that way on that day, and also even now, is that like the things I'm going to remember about Ryan are nothing but positive things. Nothing but great things. I mean, in my opinion, Ryan Mallett's the greatest quarterback to ever play for the University of Arkansas. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play. I was looking at his numbers and his stats. He only played 2 years. He started his first year at Michigan, transferred to Arkansas once Bobby Petrino was hired. And, he had to sit out in the 2008 season, but then in 2009 and 2010, he had great years. It's kind of mind-blowing. Because in 2009 was his bad year. He hit 56% completion percentage of his passes, but had 30 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. He threw for 3,627 yards. 3,627 yards and 30 touchdowns. He comes back for another year to Arkansas. And in 2010, which I still think was Arkansas's best overall team that Arkansas's had really this millennium. But he comes back and ups his game where he throws for 65% completion percentage. So jumped up 10 points there. Threw for nearly 3,900 yards with 32 touchdowns. Did have 12 interceptions, but his quarterback rating went much more through the roof. And Arkansas had one of their most memorable seasons playing in the Sugar Bowl. Scoop and score, should have done it. But he was incredible, man. He had a swagger to him. He was able to just go out there and sling the football all over the field. And it was just mesmerizing. And I think it was a accumulation of a lot of things. It was the fact that Arkansas had gone so long without a legitimate passing game. Now, Houston was not known for having legitimate passing threats and passing offenses that were very effective. So you went through 10 years of that. And you had some guys that were decent. You had Clint Sterner. You had, Barry Lunny, guys that were all right. But as far as like legit throwing the ball over the field, it seemed like everybody else in the SEC had some sort of fun passing offense, and Arkansas was just always lacking behind. And so when you inserted Bobby Petrino, you inserted Ryan Mallett, and you inserted a whole cast of great skill position players around him, you had the most fun, because not only was Arkansas winning and going to the Sugar Bowl and everything, but they were just so much fun to watch. And Ryan was one of, if not the biggest reason for that. With the flick of his wrist, he could throw the ball like 80 yards. I mean, his arm strength was unbelievable. And that was something where I was actually talking to somebody about this before, and giving my opinions about Ryan Mallett and why he's the greatest Razorback quarterback of all time. And people have brought up other players, and I'm not here to argue with you about it. It's my opinion. But the thing about Ryan, and he'll admit it too, but like, he wasn't just some freakish gifted athlete, like he wasn't a guy that was able to, hey, if the pocket collapsed, take off running and end up making you pay for that. He wasn't a guy who scrambled around and got away from the pocket and could throw off over his feet and off his foot and, make plays. Like, everything that made him great at the quarterback position was literally here and here. It was his arm and it was his mind. That was it. I mean, yeah, he was 6'6", 6'7". But other than just being able to see a little higher, I mean, it wasn't anything uniquely special about his athleticism or about his game. You know, he wasn't easy to bring down, but he also wasn't a guy who's going to truck you either. I mean, he was just literally a quarterback with this and this. And it's almost like a lost art. You don't see it very much anymore, which is fine. It's not like, oh, no, Mallett's better than Cam Newton or, you know, any of those. I'm not saying that, but it was just such a unique type of quarterback where he was able to have those types of numbers with that type of offense where it was a lot of play action, a lot of shotgun. And I mean, my favorite thing, like I always think about things in a weird way and in a different way. I'm sure you all know that, but I always think back to any time watching him play. And if you're watching on TV, because you know on TV in the broadcast, it follows the ball. So you have no idea what's going on downfield. When a pass play is developing, you really don't see much. You don't know what's going on downfield. And it would be the coolest thing whenever he snapped the ball, and I would be counting. And I'd also watch his feet. If he didn't move his feet, like if he wasn't, you know, kind of moving around and doing, you know, moving his head and looking at other options, and I counted 1, 2, 3. By the time I got to 3, I'm like, he's got somebody. Because he had this patience about him where he'd let the plays develop, you know, and just within reason. But he would wait, and he knew looking downfield, he's like, I just got to wait a little longer and he's going to be open. And if that was going on and he let that thing loose, I knew it was going to be either a touchdown or a massive gain. He had strength, but the accuracy he had when throwing the ball downfield was something that, I mean, you just don't really appreciate it. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that can throw the ball 80 yards. I mean, there's just big old dudes, quarterbacks that can chunk the ball downfield and kind of just be so impressive and how strong they are in throwing a football. But that doesn't mean a dadgum thing if you can't go out there and hit the wide receiver in stride. And Mallett would do that all the time. Just like there's just so many plays I could bring up. I wish I could play him and pay him tribute that way. But, you know, I think back to the very first game I really saw the coming out party of Ryan Mallett was in that 2009 season where Arkansas was playing Georgia in Fayetteville. Now, Arkansas ended up losing the game because it was just defense was optional in that one. But going back to the point of like I was saying, there was just so long where you didn't have a great passing threat until Mallett got there. And I'll never forget in the first quarter, Arkansas scored 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. Now, again, kids, that may not seem like an insane thing, but back then in 2009, that was crazy. But to do it through 3 passing touchdowns was even crazier. And then to do it where each of those passing touchdowns were like 35, 40-yard plus bombs all in the first quarter to 3 different wide receivers. Of course, Joe Adams, Jarius Wright, and Greg Childs. I remember watching that first quarter of that game, and I remember looking at my brother who was there with me and my parents, and I'm like, I can't believe this. It was so shocking to me to see it actually happening against Georgia of all teams. It's not like Georgia was just some scrub. I mean, you were dialed in. Oh, it's so much fun. Unfortunately, I think it was Joe Cox for Georgia threw 6 touchdown passes in that game because defense was optional. But if I think back to that, I think back to another play that I really loved was actually that same season against Mississippi State, I believe in Little Rock. Yeah, it was in Little Rock. And again, you can go back and watch some of these highlights if you want to see. And I think War Machine has an entire Ryan Mallett highlight film, which is awesome. But like, he had one to Kobe Hamilton. That was a 51-yard touchdown pass, I believe. just was it had to be perfectly placed right in Kobe Hamilton's hand, in his hands. And I mean, it was just right there, right in the breadbasket, just beautiful touch. But without question, I think like the most fun play or the most memorable play or game or however you want to put it was against LSU in 2010. Now, I know everyone's going to think about the play right before halftime with Kobe Hamilton with 6 seconds left. They go 80 yards and score a touchdown. And that's a great play. But that was a lot more Kobe Hamilton than it was Ryan Mallett. I mean, it was a great play by both, but Kobe Hamilton with the two LSU players colliding and then him just being a track star, taking it to the house, like that was a big part of it, if not one of the biggest parts of it. But the play that I am going to always think about in that game, which may have been the most crucial play of the game, was that 4th and 3 play. Arkansas has got a slight lead, a 2-point lead, and it's 4th down and 3, about 30, 35, 40 yards out. And Arkansas is in a position to where if they win this, whoever wins that game is going to the Sugar Bowl. Like that's what's on the line. Auburn has already won the SEC West. They're the number 1 team. They're going to go to the SEC championship game, and they're probably going to play for a national championship. But that was basically like, hey, whoever wins this game goes to the Sugar Bowl. And Arkansas had never been to a BCS bowl game up until that point. And it was just the perfectly drawn up play where 4th and 3, you're thinking, hey, just get a quick first down and just extend the play, extend the drive, get some clock off of that. But Bobby Petrino had a great play, great game plan, and a great play where Joe Adams, veteran wide receiver, was one-on-one with a true freshman, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. And Petrino, being the genius that he is, knew that, hey, going up against a young kid like that, as gifted as he is and as talented as he is, he's going to be expecting you to just do a quick back and get the first down. So you do the double pump move and you take off. And Joe Adams did that move. It completely froze Tyrann Mathieu, and Ryan Mallett hit him perfectly. Just perfectly for the touchdown and gave Arkansas the win. And they moved on to the Sugar Bowl. But man, I just loved seeing him play. It was so much fun to have a quarterback that had swagger to him and confidence, and the way he talked and all of that. And take all of that away. Take all of that away. The thing that really should also stand out was his love for Arkansas. He went and played at Texarkana High School. And he was the number 4 player in the country, the number 2 quarterback in the country, I believe, only behind Jimmy Clausen, if I'm not mistaken. But everybody wanted him. Everybody wanted him. But him growing up a Razorback fan, he always wanted to go to Arkansas. But at the time, Arkansas had just had Mitch Mustaine on, and also there was a lot of drama surrounding it. And also, in my opinion, like Houston Nutt wasn't exactly known for developing quarterbacks. So he went to Michigan and played for Lloyd Carr in his final year. And then Lloyd Carr got fired. Lost a couple bad games and got fired. Well, Michigan brought in Rich Rodriguez, which I don't know if you guys know this, but the quarterback situation, Ryan Mallett and Rich Rodriguez, that was not going to be a match. You don't go from Pat White and Steve Slayton to Ryan Mallett. And Arkansas just happened to hire Petrino. It was just a perfect storm that came together. But, he didn't go to Michigan and slide Arkansas. He just knew about the situation Arkansas was going through. And I don't think anybody really blamed him. But he had an opportunity. Like, when he was leaving Michigan, he could have gone anywhere. But he wanted to be a Razorback. And he didn't even take any visits anywhere. He just this is where he wanted to be. So he came back, and he could have left after year 1. But he came back another year. He loved being a Razorback. He loved Arkansas. He loved the fans. And if you need any more evidence of that, man, like he played in the NFL in New England, in Houston, in Baltimore. And, he had money from the NFL and all that. He could have lived anywhere he wanted to, but he came back and lived in Arkansas. And he was really getting it going, man. He was really putting it together with being a high school head coach. He was the head coach of Whitehall, and they had a really good thing going. And I just felt like, again, I don't want to say that I was close best friends with Ryan Mallett because I wasn't, but I knew him. And I knew him in different phases of his life. I remember talking to him when he was at Arkansas, and talking to him when he was in the NFL, talking to him when he came back and retired from the NFL, and just seeing the different stages of his life. But it was hard to really put into words that the happiness and the satisfaction that he was living in his life being a head coach, coaching football, because that was what he loved. He loved football. He loved playing football. He loved watching football. And it only made sense for him to love coaching football. And the players loved him. He was successful there. And, I would have loved to have seen what he could have continued to grow into and the type of coach he could have become. Just because of how much he loved the game, but also how smart he was. He knew football as good as anybody. But the happiness that he had and being in Arkansas and coaching high school football, it just felt like he found his path. He found his path. But unfortunately, it all just came to an end way too soon. But there's a lot of great things to remember him by. There's a lot of great moments that you had as a fan, I'm sure, but just him as an individual and a human being. He was engaged to Madison, and I still know that she has to deal with that every day, and I just couldn't imagine. And his family having to deal with that, just couldn't imagine. But there's just a lot of love for 1-5, and there will continue to be a lot of love for 1-5. But even though it's been a year, it still doesn't seem real. But rest in peace, Ryan Mallett, man. We miss you. You're one of the all-time greats, and said you're just a guy that I'll always appreciate. Some of the best years of my life that I had of watching Razorback football was because of you. So appreciate it, man. Folks, we'll continue on with the John Nabors Show and have some other topics to talk about here in just a second. But I want to tell you about our friends over at Signature Bank. We know that when it comes to your money, you have to be able to go in and to go to a bank that will take care of your money and be able to make sure that your money stays in your account. And when it's available, you can get it. Signature Bank is the bank for you. No matter what it is, if it's personal or if it's business, they're going to make sure that your money is safe, sound, and secure. And they also got all the other amenities that you could possibly need from a bank, where they're not too big to where you're just a number, but they're not too small to where they can't do anything for you. They have all the amenities you could ask for. They got loan services. They got lenders that you can talk to. And they're always very welcoming every single time that you walk into their banks. And they got locations across Northwest Arkansas, as well as in Harrison, as well as in Jonesboro. So if you're needing a place to get your life going and to place something as important as your livelihood and as your money when it comes to not only you, but to your family, personal, business, does not matter, do it with Signature Bank. You can visit their website at www.signature.bank. That's signature.bank. Or you can check out any of their convenient locations, again, across Northwest Arkansas, Harrison, and in Jonesboro. It's Signature Bank, the official bank of Natty State Sports.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
Okay, so moving on into the next segment of the John Nabors Show. I know the EA Sports college football game is going to be released here very soon, and I love it. I know people may look at it's just a game. Like, people were mad at me because I saw the highlight clip that they had, or at least the video clip that they had, where they were showing the Razorback band forming the A, where the team ran out, but they were wearing black pants. All I said was, I'm like, since when did the band wear black pants? And everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's just a game. It's like, I know it's just a game, but I feel like if they did all the research and going into it and like looking at, how the bands do things, I figured one of the things that they would see is that they wear white pants. I don't know. I just thought it was strange. Sorry, but it's going to be fun. I can't wait to play it. I still am cautiously optimistic. It's looking great in the trailers and previews and everything, but I am still not 100% sold because EA Sports usually sucks when it comes to their games. They have destroyed the Madden franchise. So I'm hopeful that they let the people who were involved with the college football game, when they brought in all the people that used to do it and used to put it together and like have a love and appreciation, because that's really what it comes down to, is you just need to have people who love the game. And so if you do that, you should be fine. But either way, people are always talking about, and they keep putting out these little releases. We talked about the top 25 places to play and how Arkansas was in both of those. But today they actually put out two different lists as they were combining, the ratings and where teams are at and everything. They came out with the top 25 offenses in the ratings and the top 25 defenses in the ratings. Okay. I regret to inform all of you that Arkansas was not in either of them. So, there it is. It sucks, but that's just the truth. And I didn't expect them to be honest. I think that there's a chance that they can end up in the top 25 in offense. Chance. Top 25 defense? Probably not. But here was the EA Sports college football video game top 25 offenses. The number one being Georgia, tied with, I guess, technically Oregon at number 2, both at 94 overall. Okay. Alabama at number 3. All right. Kalen DeBoer is new head coach, so that will be the interesting part of it to see, like, okay, we'll see. Their new coach there. They have pieces. They're Alabama still, but will they be the number 3 type of offense? We'll see. Texas is at number 4 at 91 overall. So I guess Alabama and Texas technically tied, which makes sense. Quinn Ewers, a great quarterback. Then after that, Ohio State and LSU and Miami are 89 overall. But here's the thing. Colorado and Missouri are 89 overall. Like, what? What is that? What do you mean? How is that even possible? Because I look at it where you have, listen, it's again, I know it's a video game. I know it is. But they're basing this off of a lot of their research. You know what it reminds me of? It's almost like it's almost like a top 25 like polling. It's like, oh, we came together and this is what we came up with. And whether you agree with it or not, or whether you like it or not, it's like, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem right at all. What's going on here? How does this make sense? But like, I don't know. I was just a little surprised to see a few things like that. Ole Miss is 13th. I figured they'd be higher because they're all, and also USC at 25th. Say what you want, but Lincoln Riley always has a great offense. Like the offense is always going to be good there. Texas A&M, I guess we'll see because they're kind of in the same situation as Bama. Got a new coach there. Penn State at number 12. I don't know about that. Even Clemson at number 8, at number 10. It's like, I don't know. But the real one that I think people were bringing up and talking about was Colorado. And I love Barrett Sallee's tweet about this. They have them as the tied, I guess technically tied for 5th offense because you got a bunch of teams that are 89 overall. But here's what Colorado's offense did last year. They were ranked 82nd in the nation in yards per game. They were 99th in the nation in yards per play. They were 60th in the nation in points per game. They were 85th in plays of 20-plus yards. And they were also 64th in the nation on third down percentage. And I just look at that and I'm like, why are they there as a top 10 offense? I don't know if I've ever actually talked about it here on this show, but I do kind of have an issue with Colorado. I actually like Coach Prime, Coach Deion Sanders. Like I do like him, and I think that there's a lot of fun to be had with him. But the amount of people that try to force the issue of making them into being like this great college football program and all that, it's just not happening yet. And I hate, one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to sports is I'm immediately going to resent anything that people try to force feed down your throat of saying this is great, this is great, this is great, this is great, when it hasn't been proven yet. It hasn't been earned yet. And that's what I got last year with Colorado. I remember they won that first game against TCU in a high-scoring affair. It was like the Labor Day weekend, and they won that game. And the cycle nonstop on ESPN and everything was like, is Colorado a college football playoff contender? It's like my brothers in Christ. They have won one game against a TCU team that they barely beat. Relax. Well, guess what? They went 4-8 last year. Colorado did. And they gave up, what was it? Weren't they up like 35-0 or something crazy like that on Stanford and then blew the lead and lost? So anyways, like they're there. And then this is the defensive top 25 rankings. You have Ohio State at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Oregon at number 3, Bama at 4. So basically the top 4, or at least the top, So at both, if you're looking at the top fives of both sides, Georgia, Oregon, Alabama have a top 5 defense and offense according to the game. That makes sense. Clemson has 10 offense, but 5 defense. But then you have like Notre Dame at 6, Michigan at 7, Texas at 8. So Texas also is a top 10 team and all that. Penn State's at 9, and Utah's at 10. So basically, according to this, it looks like a few of these teams are going to be mixed in there too. But look, who's in defense over here? Colorado at number 20. So, okay, we'll see. But yeah, Arkansas is nowhere to be found on any of this. Also, having USC as the number 16 defense cracks me up because I'm pretty sure that they don't have a defense. They didn't last year, at least. So to kind of put it together, and I like this list too. I know I'm throwing a lot of graphics at y'all, so just bear with me. Actually, I want to move this a little bit more into the center there. But basically, these are the top things combined. Like if you're combining both the ratings, this is what it looks kind of folds out to be. Is that Georgia's number 94 overall? So Georgia's number 1 team. Not surprising. You got Ohio State at number 2, Oregon at number 3, Alabama at number 4, and Texas at number 5. Clemson at 6, Penn State 7, Utah 8, Notre Dame 9, and Colorado at 10. Colorado is not going to be a top 10 team. I'm sorry. Like until it's proven, until they do it, I'm not going to believe it. And again, I like Deion Sanders, and it's so funny how people get so polarizing on this issue to where it's like, if you don't think Deion Sanders is like the greatest thing ever, or if you're just being very patient and trying to wait on him as a coach before you start crowning him as any sort of great achiever of all things amazing, they're like, well, what? You're just a hater. It's like, no, I want things to be proven first. Like the example I always cite was when Texas A&M had Kenny Hill. You remember him? They called him Kenny Trill. He's the first quarterback takeover after Johnny Manziel. He had that first game against South Carolina because South Carolina's a bad team where he just like torched them, and everybody like put him as the Heisman front runner. They jumped up from unranked to number 7 in the country. I'm like, could y'all relax for 2 seconds? Just wait until somebody earns it before you crown them. But everybody wants to be first. They want to be back. See, I've been saying this from the beginning, that this was the greatest team or the greatest player ever. So just wait. That's all I ask. But point is, going back to the Arkansas angle, Arkansas's not on that. They're not on that list, and I didn't expect them to be. But I think that there is a possibility that Arkansas offensively could be able to crack into the top 25. Like, we just talked about Ryan Mallett and the offense that he was a part of under Bobby Petrino. And I'm not trying to make any comparisons of Ryan Mallett to Taylon Green or anything like that, so please don't misconstrue. But knowing when you have somebody that's an offensive-minded coach like Bobby Petrino, and knowing the type of talent that Arkansas does have offensively, folks, like say what you want about the overall talent, say what you want about, the transfers and whether or not you think they're going to click or not. Say what you want, but you cannot deny the fact that Arkansas does not have some really good offensive pieces. Like you have, in my opinion, one of the best tight ends and a possible Mackey Award winner, and Luke has. And Ty Washington's not too bad either. Like those are your 2 tight ends you're going to have. Your wide receivers, you return pretty much everybody from last year. And I know that we didn't get to see him a lot because KJ could not ever, just have time to have it to play develop and offense. It doesn't matter. But still, Andrew Armstrong's really good. I think Isaac Tesla is going to be targeted a little bit more. I think Isaiah Satania is exactly what Bobby Petrino type of offense needs and has wanted. Even Tyrone Broden, which I know he dealt with an injury, but in spring, he was looking really good. So you got that. The running backs, you got Rashad Dominion back, who I really like. The Jaquindon Jackson kid, the transfer from Utah, I'm telling you, when we're going to do our bowl predictions as we get closer to football season, to me, he could be one of the best running backs in the SEC statistically. I think he has that type of capability. So you got him. You got, I think even Braylon Russell, the true freshman, the big hoss running back from here in the state of Arkansas. I think he could get into the mix as a true freshman. But the most important thing and the obvious thing is going to be the offensive line. Like, how is the offensive line going to do? How are they going to look? Are they going to get it done? Are they going to be improved? Well, I say what you want, but at least the team and the coaching staff and the personnel and everybody, it was so bad last year and they did an overhaul and they changed it. How much did they change it? How much better is it going to be? We'll have to find out once you get on the field, but at least they're not just keeping the same stuff back. No, it's going to be okay. It's like, no, it's not. Make the change. They made a change in the offensive line room and coach room with Eric Mateos, which I really like Eric Mateos. Just a few times that I've actually been able to talk to him in person. And also his coaching style when I've seen him in spring and everything. I really like him. I think he's going to be a huge addition and a much more prepared, much more ready and better fit for Arkansas on the offensive line. So you change that, and then you added in some transfer from the offensive line that were desperately needed. You kept the one guy in Josh Braun that was really one of the biggest reasons and biggest players that you needed to keep, a great leader. But then you added Addison Nichols, and you added Fernando Comona, and you added Blackstock. Like, you added these guys that were highly regarded out of the transfer portal. So I'm saying all that to say there is potential there for the Razorback offensive line to not only just be really improved, but to actually be a solid SEC offensive line. There's no reason for them not to be. And if, like, I'll put it this way. If Arkansas has an offensive line that's middle of the pack, we'll say seventh. Go a little bit above, since now there's 16 teams. But just say the seventh best offensive line in the SEC. If Arkansas is able to have that consistently this year, folks, it would not surprise me at all if Taylon Green, assume healthiness is always important, but it would not surprise me at all if Taylon Green threw for close to 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. I'm not saying he would get to that point, but I could see him having 2,800 yards and 28 touchdowns, something like that. Would not surprise me at all. Wouldn't surprise me if Jaquindon Jackson and or Rashad Dubinion got 1,000 yards, or maybe by committee you had 3 different running backs with 600 plus yards. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And that all is hinging on the offensive line. That offensive line, if they can protect Taylon Green, they can open up holes for those running backs, and if they can just provide enough time for these wide receivers to get open, I'm just being honest. I really believe the offense could be a game changer. It could be really good. It could be really fun. I'd enjoy it. We talked about the offense that Arkansas had under Bobby Petrino the first time around. Remember how much fun that was? I'd love to see that again. Would be nice. It would be nice. But we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm excited about football, though. I don't care what anybody says. It is kind of annoying, though, that anytime I ever mention football on my social media, there's always some guy in the reply who's like, yeah, I'm not even that excited. Oh, Bill, what? When's basketball season? Okay. Can we just at least be... There's no problem with being excited, even if there's not a lot of reasons to think that it's going to be just this phenomenal year. And because, listen, you're 0-0. Anything can happen. I mean, how many times have we seen Arkansas teams do a lot better than what we thought? In 2021, did anyone see Arkansas going 9-4? No. Did anyone see Arkansas going 4-8 last year? No, most people didn't. So you never know what's going to happen. I'm just choosing to be optimistic because I actually feel like there are reasons to be optimistic. Things I just laid out. I think the Bobby Petrino factor is, I'm not overstating that. Like Texas A&M last year with Petrino, and I'll even call it a muzzled Petrino because we know that it was a weird situation and they were forcing him to kind of learn and to do the things that they did instead of letting him come in and do his work. But even that A&M team improved dramatically offensively from what they did the year before. And that was when their starting quarterback got hurt. Like their best quarterback got hurt during the year. So why can't Bobby Petrino walk right into Arkansas situation and with the players and the personnel and everybody that they have and just be like, okay, let's make this work. Let's make it work. Like, what if Arkansas's offense ends up being like crazy good? Like, what if they go over to Oklahoma State and they win that game like 56-31? I'm going to be like, you know what? This team could win the SEC. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. Maybe. But it would be kind of fun to see this team really just hit the ground running offensively. Because, again, the defense is important. I'm not trying to downplay that, but I think the defense is going to be just good enough. Like, yeah, you'd want them to be elite. Everybody wants an elite defense, but you got to look at it as realistically as you can. I'd rather have a great offense and an average defense than an average offense and a great defense. Like I would. In the modern day of college football, I would. You can't win if you can't score. Arkansas's defense was actually pretty good last year. And what'd that get them? Squat. The offense struggled crazy, and it was just not fun. Offense is fun. Scoring points is fun. Big plays, those are fun. So let's have fun things. That's all I'm asking, just for fun things. Tell you what's not fun, though. Pests. Pests are the worst. In fact, I have a buddy of mine that actually has a business that's been infested with a bunch of things that they don't want there. A lot of ants. I felt bad for him because I'm like, man, that's not ideal because nobody wants to walk into a business and see a bunch of ants everywhere. Well, that's why I told him. I was like, hey, you got to call Hopper. Got to call them right now at 479-750-4070 because they have everything that they need and that you need to get rid of your pest problem. And we're not just talking about with ants. We're talking about spiders, rodents, moles, mosquitoes, cockroaches, wasps, silverfish, fleas, ticks, everything. They got it all. And they're able to eradicate the problem at the source and to make it last for a long time before it needs reapplication. And it even goes through the rain. So even if it rains outside, doesn't wash it away, it's able to go through that rain. So you got to call them today to get rid of those pests. Don't wait any longer. Don't sit there and just hope that they go away because they're not. Give Hopper a call today at 479-750-4070. And when you do call them, say the boys from Natty State sent you. And when you do that, you're going to get $50 off your very first service. So just give them a call, 479-750-4070. You can also check their website out at callhopper.com. But no matter what it is, when it comes to getting rid of those pests, make sure you do it with Hopper and use the code Natty for $50 off your first service.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
All Natty, all the time. Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. The John Nabors Show is live from the Natty State Sports Studios.
All right, we'll get to a few things here on the John Nabors Show, as well as get to the Hey, Did Y'all See this segment here in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you about our friends over at Superior Contracting and Development right here in Arkansas. I know a lot of you are always looking to add and change some things to your home because you don't want to buy one because it is way too expensive with all the rates and everything. Well, luckily for you, Superior Contracting and Development will have you covered here in the state of Arkansas because they are licensed residential and commercial contractors specializing in all aspects of home building as well as remodeling. They handle everything from fencing to drainage to additions of remodeling or even your existing structure all the way to land development and ground up construction. So you can call them today for all of your interior and exterior construction and remodeling needs and do so at 501-453-3053. That's 501-453-3053. You can also check out their new website at Superior Contracting AR. No matter what it is, rebuilding, remodeling, interior, exterior design, do it with Superior Contracting and Development at 501-453-3053. Okay, a few stories, though, that I do want to bring up. And continuing on, actually, with the Texas A&M thing and the deal with Schloss, who, say what you want about him. He's getting a lot of heat right now, and justifiably so. He deserves it. But there was a few things two things, really, that I wanted to bring up specifically with that. First off, let's look at this. So a former Texas A&M player accuses Jim Schlossangle of recruiting players to Texas while still coaching for the Aggies. Now, this is J.B. Moss that has a tweet. Now, he hasn't deleted it or anything. And so, there could be something to it. I don't want to start throwing out some accusations or none, but it's something that he tweeted out there. And he last played in 2015 for Texas A&M. But he tweets out, more will come out, but recruiting kids to Texan from burner phones while playing in the national championship is all-time greasy. Now, let me be very clear about this. This is just an allegation. Or as far as at least at the recording of this, there's no additional evidence from this, and we'll see if more will come out, like he says. But I could totally believe it. I mean, Jim Schlossangle has kind of shown a lot of his true colors here recently, but it's kind of been a building thing. A lot of shadiness going on. And I think it happens more often than people even realize as far as having recruiting or tampering, however you want to put it. But if this came out as being true, where he was literally already going to Texas and then they had burner phones where he or somebody he was affiliated with was trying to recruit those A&M players, that's just craziness. That's just craziness. Or even the players, I guess it's like even players in recruiting for high school and everything. Burner phones and whatnot. Because if that came out, again, I don't know what the law or anything would say, but man, oh man, that'd be the lowest of low. That would be the lowest of low. Because I'm going to be honest, I've talked about this before, And one day I'm gonna when I get the permission of the people to do it, I'm gonna tell everybody about it. But I know for a fact that there have been instances of not maybe specifically SEC head coaches, but SEC programs who have tried to get players from Arkansas to enter into the portal and transfer over there when they're still a scholarship player at Arkansas. Like, that has happened. And it happens far too often. And so this whole tampering thing, and it is something, it's just, what can you really do? You can police it all day long, but everyone's going to find ways around it. But this is almost like taking it to a whole nother level where you're still the coach and you're in the championship game. You're in the College World Series title. Everyone handles things differently. But I'm sorry, but if I'm the head coach of Texas A&M, I'm making a good living, I'm doing a good job, and I'm in the College World Series title, and I'm one game away from winning it all, I obviously have enough of what I have always wanted and always needed to be able to do that and to be able to go into a position to where I can win and win at a high level. So it's not like he was in some bad situation or bad like coaching job that was not giving him all the things he needed to succeed. Like, he was in the championship series, the finals. I mean, whatever Texas is offering him, I mean, is it NIL, more NIL? Is it more money? I don't know. But if this came out as true, like, something needs to be done about that. Like, I would sue, something like that. I don't know what could be the case, but I would definitely do something like that. But also, this was another story, too. This comes from the College Station Eagle. It says Texas A&M utility fielder Travis Chestnut, who entered in the starting lineup midway through the season, made an impact for the Aggies with his speed on the base paths. He told the Eagle that he was treated poorly by Schlossangle in his tenure with the Aggies. Quote, "I'm blown away by the disrespect of Schlossangle," he said. "Not once in my career was he a respectable man to me. I stuck with him because I wanted to be an Aggie and in the SEC, but quite frankly, I didn't stick to him. I stuck to assistant coaches Mike Early and Nolan Crane." So again, this is just one player, one story. And Travis Brown, who wrote it, he's a great reporter. And so check out the article. But like, the fact that he came out and said this is just one player. So let's just, make sure that's facts. But the more and more that comes out is like, this guy is really not good. He's not, like, no one really likes him. Because I'll tell you this. There's something to be said about having coaches that are great with their players. I talked about Tony Vitello. Tony Vitello rubs people the wrong way. I know Greg McElroy went off on him. He later apologized. And I know Greg, it's whatever. But every single person, every single player, former player of Tony Vitello's I have ever talked to, love the man. Any former Razorback, like Tyler Spoon is a good friend of mine, and he came on this show consistently. He loves Tony Vitello. Dominic Ficcichello loved Tony Vitello. Like, everybody loves Tony V. And you see that, how hard they play for him, how much fun they have, and like the excitement and the energy that they have. You saw what, like, that's a legit thing. But with Schloss, the more I'm seeing it and the more things keep just adding up, I'm like, this guy doesn't have anybody in his corner. He seems like the type of coach that just does what he needs to do to get by and get enough. And then after that moves on and doesn't really care about anybody else in the past. So I could be wrong about this. And it's very possible I am. But dude, it could be where Texas entering into the SEC, they're already going to be hated, but Texas baseball might be the universal public enemy number one among all the conference teams. Like, it could get to the point to where even like Tennessee and Arkansas and Ole Miss and LSU and for sure A&M, they're all looking over at Texas like, we hate you more. It's almost like a collective group where it's like everyone hates each other, but then there's like one common enemy that they all hate. And so they all just bound together and want to take them on. Like, that's what you're kind of teetering with right now. That's the vibe I'm getting. So, man, he has not done well. He has not done himself any favors in this whole situation. But again, I'm fine with it. Like, I all the reasons, bringing all the reasons to hate Texas, I am totally fine with it. We'll get to the hey, did y'all see this segment here in just a second. Folks, got to tell you about our friends over at BroThrow.com/Natty. We know you want to be winning some money, right? Betting on sports, right? Well, bet against real people. Bet against real people with real bets with BroThrow.com/Natty. Now, I know that there's no real football or basketball is kind of taking it in, but baseball's still going strong in Major League Baseball. And right now, if you go to BroThrow.com/Natty, you can get to betting on a lot of these games, not only with the spreads, but the over-unders and the money lines. And even tonight, you got the line coming out with the Phillies and the Marlins, where the Phillies are favored by 1.5 runs. Well, TJ's got $25 down on the Phillies to cover 1.5. Feeling the Marlins, put down $25 yourself, go against them, and lay the best man, woman win. And then once you do, the next day, or as soon as the game ends, you follow up with it, and you either pay them because you lost or you get paid because you won. And they have it really easy with their web app because you get to be able to have it through Venmo, through PayPal, through Cash App. Makes it really convenient, and you save a ton of money on the juice. You don't. It's not like the percentages are coming out because the house is taking a bunch of money. It's not what BroThrow does. So check them out today. Get to betting. Get to winning some games. You got to be 21 years or older to enter. It's available in most states, but the best thing about it is it's free to sign up. That's right. Free to sign up. So check it out today. It's BroThrow.com/Natty. Okay, so moving on with the Hey Y'all See This segment. A few funny things here. Speaking of the college football video game, Horns Down will not be in the new college football video game because EA Sports is including positive hand signals only. And it's according to Chris Vanini. He says, I've been told that Horns Down will not be in the video game, only hand signals for your own team. So here's what's funny is, like, I wasn't expecting EA Sports to put the Horns Down in their game. Like, I was not expecting that, nor I don't think necessarily saying they should. But it is kind of funny that it continues to be an ongoing issue where, for those who may not know the history of it, the Big 12 made this rule to where if any player on the field or whatever does the Horns Down signal, it's penalized. It's penalized, which is the softest, stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. That is so absurd. And the fact that Texas cared that much about it, like, we all knew what was going to happen. It was going to be the opposite effect. Because when that comes out, they're joining the SEC, and as of right now, that's not a penalty in the SEC, and they better not make it one. Like, it's one thing to go up there and like to do it in a guy's face. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you go up into a Texas player's face and you do that, okay. But if you just score a touchdown and you're blowing Texas out of the water and you look to the crowd and you hit that, you get a penalty for that? Stop. Because there's so many other things that you could do that you don't get a penalty for. You know, like the little too short thing that basketball players have done? At least according to the rules in football, if you score a touchdown and you did that signal, which is kind of an insult to the team or to the player that you just beat, you don't get penalized for that. But this, got to penalize you for it. So it's a joke. So hopefully that ends up not being the case in the SEC, and hopefully they end up actually making it work to where it can happen. Again, not doing it in players' faces, not saying that, but Horns Down, the more you try to fight against it and trying to delete it, the more people are going to do it. Like in 2021, when Texas came to Fayetteville, everyone was doing it. On the Jumbotron, they had little hand emojis like doing this. It was hilarious. So it's just, again, I think it's funny because, I wasn't expecting it to be in the football game, but the fact that people are still talking about it and I haven't even asked about it was also pretty funny too. Speaking of this, also with the media. So I've been in the media now for a while, and I've gone to different places. I've gone to bowl games. I've gone to NCAA tournament events. I've gone to baseball events covering Arkansas. I've gone to NFL, like seeing them play bowl games in NFL stadiums, seeing them play games against road teams, all the above. And one of the things that maybe people may not realize or really don't care about is that there is like hospitality for the media when you're going there. Sometimes it's a smorgasbord, but at least when you go there, that's usually like, okay, here's some food, some catered food for you and some drinks, and just to kind of show hospitality. It's common. It's a common thing, especially for people that traveled and they're coming there to promote the program, promote the game and all that. It's you guys don't care about that, but it's still pretty common. Well, I just saw this story about apparently there's media food prices. So most of the time it's just free. And a lot of times it doesn't even have to be anything like fancy. It's usually just like, here's we just ordered some pizza from the local delivery spot. And guess what? Most people are happy. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to be picky about it. But when it starts going for food prices, I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. But then this story came out about SoFi Stadium, where the Copa America matches are at. And this is their Copa Media lunch and how much they charged. $25 for a hot dog served with potato wedges and a cookie. $25 for chicken tenders served with the potato wedges and a cookie. Or a Southwestern salad, if you're feeling healthy. For $25, that has romaine, black beans, corn, tomatoes, green onions, tortilla chips, and a side of Chipotle dressing, chips, and a cookie. So we know that it's ridiculous pricing everywhere for when it comes to sporting events. But the fact that they're having media have to buy this, and the fact that they're charging this, there has to be something that needs to be done about this, folks. And I'm talking about mainly for people in football stadiums and at events. But I'm sorry, there needs to be some sort of law put into place where you are not gouging people of refreshments. I get it. Capitalism. I'm all for it. It's the market. Whatever people pay is what you're going to put the prices at. I get it. But Jiminy Christmas, the fact that I've seen something like this, a hot dog with potato wedges and a cookie, 25 bones. Dude, I would bet dollars to donuts that the cost of that right there, and what it costs SoFi or whoever's doing it, is probably $2, $2.50 maybe. So they're not only making money on the fans, they're making money on the media. And if I would just be like, dude, I'm gonna go to In-N-Out Burger after the game and just call it good. Or I bring my own food in if I saw that. What are we doing here? What actual respectable media person walked in there and be like, oh, $25 for hot dogs and some potato wedges? Here you go. Here's my card. Oh, you want a tip too for just handing me the hot dog and a cookie? Oh, 25% work. There you go. That's absurd. But it's a real thing, apparently. Also, in some other sporting news, I don't know how I feel about this. So NBC is going to be using the AI voice of Al Michaels to commentate and highlight packages for this year's Summer Olympics. I love Al Michaels. I mean, he's got the golden voice, dude. And who doesn't love and get chills every single time that they hear the "Do you believe in miracles" call? I mean, it's awesome. But apparently NBC is bringing a version of famed sportscaster Al Michaels back to the Olympics this summer with an unlikely twist where his voice will be powered by artificial intelligence. NBC announced on Wednesday it will use AI software to recreate Michaels' voice to deliver daily recaps of the Summer Games for subscribers of its Peacock streaming platform, a milestone use of AI by a major media company. The use of an AI voice for the Olympics comes as the technology has grown by leaps and bounds, particularly in its ability to create images, sound, and text. That, in turn, has raised questions in creative industries, such as journalism, about how artificial intelligence can or even should be used. So here's the thing. I don't know about this. I get what you're trying to do, and I guess if Al Michaels is okay with it, are they paying him for it? I'm sure they are. Surely they are. They'd have to. But I don't know, man, because if that's something that really works really well and takes off, boy, people like me and people like me are going to be out of business. You just have AI stuff. It's kind of scary. Now, I've seen AI images and AI, I've seen, what people call them deep fakes, or the White House calls them cheap fakes. There's stuff like that, but it's why? Is that going to, what it is, it has to be saving them money, saving them time, just plugging it up and boop, having it play. That has to be the only reason why. It's the only thing I can think of, at least. It's the only thing I can think of. All right, and finally, this is a video that's going to make us all very happy. So Grimace is over here chugging beers. Grimace. Yes, Grimace. Look at this. This is Grimace from the McDonald's, the character. He's chugging a beer and cheering them on. That is the best thing ever. Like, can we look at his, let's pause this when he puts his hands up in the air. Like, is there a more victorious feeling than that guy right there? Like, look at that. Look at that. He just chugged a beer. He's dressed as the Grimace. He's got both arms in the air. I mean, if that doesn't just scream victory, I don't know what does. But that video made me happy. Something about the Grimace. Just so funny. But hey, he got his. That's all that matters. Appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the John Nabors Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Natty State Sports Network, wherever you can find podcasts and wherever it's found. And we're going to keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast show tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day and night, everybody.